And we're live.
We are live. Welcome to Football and Other F Words. As I was tweeting out that we are giving you our instant reaction for Senior Bowl week. My name is Zach Lyons. Follow me on X at F Words Pod. This is Stoney Keeley. You can follow him on X at Lions Ford, our travel sponsor, Lions Ford in Lewisburg, Tennessee, giving you the best deals on all things Ford, new vehicles, pre-owned vehicles, trade-in value. It doesn't matter. They're going to give you the best and the most bang for your buck. We have a live reaction show here for the Senior Bowl game. It's just now concluded. The field is behind us. Stoney, what are your thoughts right now on the one particular class that we were kind of down on all week, the linebacker class?
Yeah, I think it was an interesting day for the linebackers. Several guys made plays today. I feel like Cedric Gray was pretty consistent, but then Nathaniel Watson, John Trey Hunter all had plays in this game as well. As an interesting tidbit that we discovered this morning. I don't remember if you've got the source that reported it, but apparently linebacker agents do not particularly care for their linebackers to be playing in all-star games such as this because the drills are so skewed heavily in favor of the offense that it kind of makes them look bad.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we've seen this week. This linebacking group has not been particularly impressive in the sense that, there's not been a lot of splash plays. Nothing has really stood out to me. I don't know if it has to you.
No, I mean, but I think probably Jackson Sermon was the only guy that really stood out this week with his play. I think J.D. Bertrand and the kid from Kentucky, always named
Trevin Wallace.
Trevin Wallace. Yeah. They stood out for their leadership, but I'm with you. Today, Cedric Gray was freaking everywhere. I haven't seen a linebacker play that well all week, and he was awesome.
Yeah, and it felt like the linebackers as a whole, not just Cedric Gray. Cedric Gray was probably the standout today, but it felt like the group as a whole had a pretty good day.
Yeah. Same with the safeties. I thought that the safeties had some big plays. Evan Williams, kid from Oregon. Jalen Simpson is another one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Two guys that made some big plays for their team. But nobody made two bigger plays for their team than Shaw Smith-Wade, cornerback out of Washington State, who got his ass kicked all damn week.
Yeah.
And he persevered. He tried to improve as much as he could throughout the week, and I think we saw some improvement, but he started off from such a low floor day one that it was really hard to get up.
Yeah.
And then he gets an 86-yard interception return. He reached up, I believe, to 18 miles per hour on that return and covered like 176 or 186 yards or something wild like that.
Yeah.
He went all over the field.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a guy who persevered and ended up, when it came time, when the lights shine brightest in Mobile, Alabama, he made a play.
Yeah, the clutch moments of the game. I'm with you. Every time I noticed him this week, he was being beat. He was being toasted for touchdowns throughout the practice. But he's a great example of how you can really turn things around, raise your stock in the actual game environment of the Senior Bowl. I think with the game on the line, really, I think he might have made the play. I think he did make the play to really seal this one for the national team today.
Yeah, it was kind of a tale of, I think he was the big redemption story, but for the most part, most of the players that performed well and were consistent throughout the week performed well and were consistent in the game.
Yeah.
And I think seeing that carry over from practice to game,
I've got a whole list of guys.
Let's do it.
Guys turning good practices into good performances today. So if you weren't paying attention to our coverage throughout the week, you might have been watching this game thinking, who was that kid? But we saw him throughout the week. Amani Bailey, Luke McCaffrey, Javon Baker, Jarvis Brown.
Let's break some of these down because I was going to talk about them anyway. So if they're here, let's go one by one. Amani Bailey, you said he was Isaiah Pacheco on his way up, and I see it every day one at practice and every day throughout the week and during this game. Amani Bailey, Isaiah Pacheco, get Amani Bailey on this team with Tyjae Spears. That's where I'm at.
I would absolutely love that. Would you say he's the MVP of the game?
I would. Well, it's hard. There's a couple defensive performances. Braden Fix comes to mind.
Braden.
But I think for the offense, as far as players that really turned it on for the offensive side of the football, that really carried over their practice, that really probably made a name for themselves, that really probably endeared themselves to me, it has to be Amani Bailey at the top of the list.
Yeah. I thought Kamani Vidal, too. While we're talking running backs, I thought he was pretty effective today. Really good natural pass catcher. He's a guy that can kind of shrink at the line of scrimmage to get through traffic. And I thought he had a great game as well. At one point, he was averaging like 6.8 yards per carry out there today. So a good performance by him as well. Another guy that is charting towards my hidden gems list this season.
You had mentioned Luke McCaffrey was the next guy on your list.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I agree. I even put on my top 50. He was still in the 40s.
Yeah.
But really, there's just so many good players out of the 138 that were here. It's not indicative of his performance, but I felt that's a guy I had a hard time placing within my top 50 because he was so consistent.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't really wow you, but he made a fantastic one-handed grab. He was getting open. He was busting asses in the run game today.
Yeah,
he really had a really good game today.
I mean, there were several times too. I don't know if it came across on the broadcast for everybody watching at home, but we were watching it live, and I would nudge Zach and say, man, Luke McCaffrey was wide open on that play. Sam Hartman just didn't see him or couldn't get the ball to him.
Yeah. Who's next on your list?
Javon Baker. I thought this kid runs a really clean route.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was really savvy today, kind of splitting the difference between the safety and the cornerback in zone coverage to get open, break inside. Another case of, man, he was open several times. The ball just didn't come his way. I was really wanting them to take a deep shot towards him. Jamari Thrash too, but that's a different point. But Javon Baker, I thought, really clean route runner. Could have had a big day today.
Yeah, he was a guy that I knew was good throughout the week, and he was kind of consistent, but I felt like he never really got to showcase what makes him so special.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes happens in practices because his route running is good, but his athletic ability is off the charts, I feel like. And that wasn't really on showcase, but he wasn't getting the ball today, but he was getting open. The athleticism was on tape.
And that's
that's what's important is what have you put on tape even when the ball's not thrown your way?
Yeah, let's see any other offensive players before we get. Oh, I would say Lad McConkey too. I think there were a couple of times that he just absolutely cooked.
Kalen King specifically.
Kalen King, pour one out for Kalen King's draft stock after this week.
Both Penn State corners did not have good weeks in different areas of their game. I would say that Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, he made the play of the game, I think. You could say for his touchdown.
Yeah, it was. I felt like he was pretty solid today, which is kind of how he's been all week.
Solid
guy. Probably going to be a day 3 value.
He's kind of like a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Yeah,
which is okay sometimes in a wide receiver because those guys have the tool set that you're looking for. He's got the size. He's got the tool set. He's got the, I guess you'd say, selflessness in the run blocking game. He's reliable. He's relentless.
Mm-hmm.
That's stuff that's being described by the Tennessee Titans.
Might be worth keeping an eye on.
He may be like a TJ Hushmanzada. They're nothing in size, but like a solid wide receiver too his whole career that is dependent and reliable. He may never be a wide receiver 1, but I really liked what I saw him in Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint.
There we go. We got it.
MRJ, especially throughout the week, catching stuff in traffic, catching stuff with his hands. Really soft runner. So what you got?
Yeah. So moving over. Do you want to talk about Ryan Flournoy?
Yeah, we can talk about he was kind of like he's kind of like to me Javon Baker in the sense that he didn't really get to showcase a lot the quarterback play and the offensive line play because the defenses were very, very good in the trenches today. Kind of limited what you could see from him, but I really like what I saw from Ryan Flournoy in the similar fashion Javon Baker. Like they're on different teams, so he's like the Javon Baker of the American team, or Javon Baker is the Ryan Flournoy of the national team.
Yeah.
The things that we're going to have to do to get some Southeast Missouri all 22 in SFW.
Yeah, somebody hook me up. I need that SEMO all 22 because he was really intriguing this week. I think his ability to kind of do a little bit of everything, but also surprised at how polished he's been this week and how he fights through contact to get open, timely breaks, good hands, big, fast, strong. We've heard this Titans regime talk about that as a characteristic in a wide receiver. He fits the bill.
His combine is going to be really important if the metrics are true. If what we have heard from various reports that he runs a 4.35 at his size, if he runs anywhere close to that, it's over. Like that guy is not going to make it out of round 2, in my opinion. And we got a question from Z Dean in the chat: is Lad McConkey a Cooper Kupp or a Hunter Renfrow? I likened him to Cooper Kupp. I said, now he's a guy that I think has to land in the right spot to really reach his ceiling. I think he
Mm-hmm.
has a high floor, but not a high ceiling. But if he were to go to the Rams with Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and Lad McConkey, that's totally unfair, and they're going to win 5 Super Bowls.
Yeah,
the NFL cannot allow that to happen.
Can't. No, we gotta boycott that. I do see the similarities to Hunter Renfrow, though. I feel like McConkey, Kupp is kind of a sturdier guy, and McConkey's a little more lanky, a little more lengthy. And I feel like Hunter Renfrow, people forget how good he was running routes at Clemson, like the whip routes that he
I
did.
don't know what happened in Vegas with Hunter Renfrow, because he was showing all that.
Yeah, and it feels like an insult to compare him to Hunter Renfrow because of how down Renfrow's stock is right now with the Raiders. But that's kind of what it reminds me of.
Well, like could have the similar career arc, right? Hunter Renfrow got injured, and had trouble staying healthy. Lad McConkey's already got that knock on him coming out of the pre-draft process from his career. To me, it's like, I think he's not a safe pick, but he's also a safe pick.
Yeah.
It's like his talent is safe,
Mm-hmm.
his durability is not safe. So for me, if I was a team, you better have a really good medical staff or strength and conditioning staff and program in place. The Tennessee Titans do not have that.
And you better not need him to be your wide receiver one, dependable week in and week out, at least early on, until he can prove he can stay healthy and routinely do the same things he did in college and here this week at the Senior Bowl at the next level. But I like the comparison to Renfrow because I feel like Renfrow could really snap his routes, and just the breaks were so sudden, and we saw McConkey do that here today.
Nobody had better and more sudden breaks than Jamari Thrash, and they just did not. They could not find ways to get him the ball.
I was begging for
and he was open.
Shot
he was open so much, and the quarterbacks just could not find him.
Yeah.
What about the defensive side of the ball?
Defensive side of the ball, I really like the defensive backs, and I should specify because I feel like a lot of people ask me about the offensive line throughout the day. I spent the bulk of my time watching the wide receivers and defensive backs today because I don't know if I'm going to get the all 22 for the Senior Bowl, and it's really hard to evaluate wide receivers and defensive backs from game broadcast, but you can still get some good insight on the offensive and defensive lines. So I don't have any linemen written down unless there's any that you want to talk about. But that's why all my names here today are wide receivers or defensive backs.
I think Kingsley and Puny deserve a little bit of love. Kingsley had probably one bad snap, I think, but Puny was really good, and I mentioned him a long time ago to you because I was like, this guy's never allowed a sack since he's been an offensive lineman, and that continued today. Didn't allow a sack today, but they put him at different positions, moved him around all week. He was one of those guys that had a really good week that turned it into a good practice. Same with Kingsley.
And I tweeted well into the game today, like I'm sold on him. I'm sold at this point. They played him. They moved him to center on Thursday, or it might have been Wednesday this week, and he's really good at tracking movement in front of him, keeping his hands up, and being ready for whatever comes his way. Played left tackle at Kansas, where I told you, like, he's not winning reps through his technique or overall like impressive power or any defining trait like that. He's just kind of going out there executing the offense and he's winning these reps. And I told you it was so frustrating to watch because I couldn't exactly pinpoint why he's doing things that no one else on the Kansas offensive line could do, and he's still winning reps. And I think they moved him inside to guard, they moved him inside to center, and once we saw that versatility that you could put this guy in center and he's not going to completely crap his pants.
Right.
That was a huge boost for him this week, and I think he showed it in the game today too. The defensive backs, Jarvis Brownlee Jr., we talked about him throughout the week, being in the receiver's hip pocket, just sticky coverage. He had a pick today. That was pretty awesome to see. Evan Williams, the safety out of Oregon, the dude has been undercutting routes all week long. It was awesome to see that production. He played like the whole game out there.
He's a guy that we both have talked about that, like, okay, we're going to have to go back and watch some Evan Williams. He seems like one of those guys that if you think that Denard Wilson could do something with Geno Stone in the 7th round, Evan Williams should go higher than the 7th round. And I would be very interested to see what Steven Jackson and Denard Wilson could cook up with a guy like Evan Williams playing opposite of Amani Hooker. That would be a pretty fast, athletic, instinctive duo for your safeties, which is, I love Elijah Molden, but he ain't that.
Yeah, no, he's not, and he's blown some assignments this season too. So I think some competition at safety would be good, and I think Evan Williams is a guy that I don't know how much this week improved his stock. Seemed like a day 3 value add. He's been consistent all week, and then he goes out there and does it in the game. Talking about transferring good play in practice to good play during the game, I think it might have his stock raising quite a bit.
You mentioned Jarvis Brown-Lee, and I'm sure Carlton Johnson probably made your list too, but so I'd like to put them together because to me, those are two guys that are 5'11" corners, or I think, 5'10" corners that play like they're 6'2" corners.
Yeah.
Because they're both very similar in the fact that they can play in the hip pocket, run the routes for the receiver.
Yes.
They can be physical at the line. I know the Tennessee Titans have had this adverse this aversion to adding taller corners, and Cam Hart's one of those guys I'm really in love with. Nehemiah Pritchett had a really good game today as well. And these guys, they mainly played in the slot, but I feel very comfortable that if you were to call their number on Sunday to have to play outside like you did with Trey Avery, like you did with Eric Garrett, you're going to get way more out of those guys than you are the guys I just mentioned.
Yeah, and Carlton Johnson was specifically impressive on a deep shot to Tez Walker today that you can say, like, if Sam Hartman puts the pass, can actually push the ball down the field and have it not fall in front of the receiver for Tez Walker to come back to, maybe that's a reception. But I thought Carlton Johnson was beat pretty quickly off the line, but you saw the recovery speed as he was able to close the gap and close the distance between he and Walker and get in there and force a pass breakup on what would have been a huge play.
Yeah.
And Tez Walker needed some huge plays today.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, so the last cornerback I wanted to talk about was Elijah Jones out of Boston College. He's been good in practice all week. I don't feel like a lot of people have talked about him, but he's lengthy, he's big. He's kind of got this innate ability to kind of maintain pace with wide receivers and then get his hand into the throwing window right as the ball is getting to the receiver. I thought he did a little bit of that today. I don't know how much people have talked about him, but I think he's another guy that it's showing up as a late round value add.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he lands. Another guy that I don't know if he's on your list or not, but Nathaniel Watson from Mississippi State,
the linebacker,
was all over the field. I mean, like we said, the linebackers really came to show it. Yeah, John Trey Hunter had a massive hit.
Yeah,
and he was a guy that kind of flew under the radar all week that I was really looking forward to that I didn't see. But like Nathaniel Watson, he had his hands on the ball. He had his hands everywhere.
Yeah.
And he was making plays all over the field. That's a guy that I thought he really brought a lot of energy to the field, and that's kind of what you need your inside linebacker to do a lot, to set that tone, set that tempo. And I believe a lot of these linebackers actually do that. But he's a guy that kind of stood out that I wanted to mention because we already mentioned Cedric Gray and Jackson Sermon as well. So there were two guys.
I tell you what, Zach, it was a bad day to be a quarterback not named Spencer Rattler or Bo Nix.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler really improved his draft stock. I think that people are I think the general sentiment among everybody right now coming out of the Senior Bowl is that people are going to be surprised about where Spencer Rattler lands in the draft or where he goes in the draft. And he's a guy that really, that rose to me. Jack Saint touchdown pass was a thing of beauty. It was right on the money, right where only his what? Yeah, poor Willie Drew.
Poor Willie Drew.
The ball hadn't even left Spencer Rattler's hand, and you said, "Poor Willie Drew," right off the bat.
Yeah, it was.
That was the only cornerback that had a worse week than Charles Smith-Wade was Willie Drew.
Yeah, Willie Drew did not redeem himself today in the way that Charles Smith-Wade did, but it was a really good outside release, and I knew from the first step that Jack Saint had the outside, and if Rattler saw it, it was going to be a touchdown, and he did, and it was.
What about the defensive line? Because we talked about the goal line stand where they had to settle for the field goal. It didn't really matter at the end of the game, but you looked at me and said, this is the time where the American defensive line is really going to show that they may not have all these pass rush moves that are going to wow you, but they're going to beat you in the trenches every time and not give up an inch, and they sure did that.
Well, that was exactly what we've seen in practice this week. This is a group of big dudes that, a lot of people that first day of practice were watching the one-on-ones thinking, man, like, why aren't they throwing pass rush moves at these guys? And I don't know if it was just a bull rush drill or what, but they were generating power, driving guys back. That offensive line was giving up ground like crazy. You felt like, it's a win if they're just giving up a few yards slowly at a time. But then when you factor in real game action where that's happening across the offensive line and not just one-on-one, and the quarterback is moving around in the pocket, you kind of feel like, okay, well, some of these that looked like good reps for the offensive line are probably going to be pressures in the NFL in game action. And I thought they did that today, particularly Braden Fisk. I think
that guy's been on my mind ever since this game.
I think the thing that he really excels at, he's got great get off. Everybody's talked about his explosiveness right off the snap this week.
Now, did he gain weight before coming in or lose weight before coming in? Do you know?
I don't know.
That was someone had mentioned that he had done something and he still had the explosive. I just can't remember which way it went.
But I think in addition to the get off, his ability to get his pad level down, to get low on a guy, initiate contact into their chest, and then explode upward and outward was on display this week. That's how he generates power, and he did it in this game. That exact technique to create a pressure.
Yeah, that I think a lot of what Cedric Gray was able to do today, especially get into the backfield and make plays, was because Braden Fisk's explosiveness, and he did not crack my top 50. And I put at the very end to get me right to a 4,000 word thing was Braden Fisk is the guy that's going to make me look like an idiot for not being included in my top 50.
Yeah.
But I didn't watch a lot of them, so I feel like I can't put players that don't really watch a lot of in my top 50 because I just don't know where to slot them.
That's fair.
And this is a guy that I wish I would have focused in on a little bit more, and someone I will focus in on once we get to the tape. Like I have a lot of top priority guys to watch coming out of this. We've talked about the Oregon safety. We've talked now about Braden Fisk.
Kingsley Egwakon.
Yeah, Kingsley Egwakon. I mean, we've got all kinds of players to watch. That really makes sense for the Tennessee Titans in a variety of ways. And that's really, what we're looking for is what players can fit and help the Tennessee Titans, not necessarily just be right about, okay, Puka Nacua, we were totally right about him, but I'd love to have been right about him being in two-tone blue. You know what I'm saying? Like, so to me, it's like, it's great for us to be right a lot of the time and have a lot of people at the Senior Bowl that translate all this, but who's going to be for the Tennessee Titans? And that's where us getting to the tape, us listening to the coaches, seeing what the coaches are known to do, their tendencies, that's when we're going to really figure out, okay, what players are actually in play for the Tennessee Titans.
Right, yeah. Kenneth asks us, Jarvis Brownlee Jr., late round steal.
Could be. It just depends on what the rest of the he may not even make it to the late round. Like these are guys like Jarvis Brownlee, if he is able to test and he tests really well, and maybe he comes in a little bit heavier and is like, to me, they're very similar to Emmanuel Forbes in the sense that they are both really skinny.
Yeah.
So, but they play way bigger. So if you put on a little bit of pounds, put on some weight, and still maintain your explosiveness at the combine, that's something that the team can see and be tangible. So there's a lot of players like Dominic Puny who will probably jump up draft boards because I think he's going to be super athletic and he's going to show. So like he's showing versatility. Now he needs to show his athleticism. It's going to be really interesting to see what comes out from here to the combine and what keeps translating.
Yeah.
Because it's all about the progress, right? It's a roadmap. It's a timeline. It's not just, okay, well, we got what's here at the Senior Bowl. It's done. Got to remember now, a lot of GMs and head coaches even come to the Senior Bowl right now. I think there are 18 GMs supposedly here and not a lot of head coaches. So it's not just the Tennessee Titans that didn't send those two guys down. So it's kind of like a whole thing. So they're going to break down the tape. They're going to meet these kids at the combine. They're going to listen to the scouting reports. They're going to take everything in college. It's like a whole thing.
Football show.
They're going to watch a football show and football and other efforts. So
that's right.
They're going to watch all this stuff and take it into account. So I'm very interested to see over these next few weeks leading into the combine how our lists look from the Senior Bowl perspective to say, here are the guys you guys need to pay attention to at the combine. They're testing and see if the Titans are linked to them at the combine because these are going to be your two-tone blue dudes is how we like to call it.
Yeah, and it's part of like throughout the process you kind of see where the Titans and these prospects link up. We know down here all of these players are meeting with every team, so it's the first check. You keep up with who they do the interviews with at the combine, and that's 2 checks, and then you go on who's at the pro days and all that stuff.
Top 30 visits.
I think it can give you a pretty good clue as to which prospects the Titans are sniffing around.
It also gives you clues like, okay, maybe they're looking at a linebacker that has some kind of, measurements.
You can get a prototype. Maybe.
You get the prototype. That's what you gotta be looking for. Thank you guys for joining us. We have put out over 25 Senior Bowl related content pieces over at secondinbox.com, on YouTube, and at Sobros Network. We're going to be putting out the stats later because we have amassed a lot of content this week. So, and that's for you guys, Titans fans. So we appreciate everybody that supported us throughout this over this last year and a half since starting Second Inbox. Everybody that's been supportive of Sobros Network over here as well. Football, the F Words, 440 Sports, football show. That will do it for us. LionsForward.net. They are the reason that we are down here. Lions Forward, our travel sponsor. They brought us down in style.
They did.
In a Ford Bronco. It was a great car ride down. We really appreciate everybody at Lions Forward. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. This has been Football and Other F Words, and you have just been effed.